And as any commitment scheme, I have to have a sender and receiver. As the sender is the person who commits, and the receiver is the receiver that gets the commitment. So this is the sender, and this is the receiver. And the receiver has to do some setup. So we said that he picks B, two large primes, P and Q, such that Q divides B minus 1. Then he calculates H equals to G to the power A mod B. And then he publishes P, Q, and the generator G and H. The generator G is just an element of order Q, which means that when I raise G to the power Q, I get a 1. I get actually G to the power Q minus 1 would give me, G to the power Q mod B will give me 1. And now the sender would like to commit for a value X. So in the commit phase, he sends his commitment, which is G to the power X, H to the power R. R is just a random number, modulo P. And in the reveal phase, or the open phase, he just sends X. So if I were to ask you a question on Peterson commitment scheme in the midterm, for example, or in the final, I will give you this. I will reveal X. So this will be given to you. And now I can ask a question. So don't try, again, like if you study this, like, or if you understand it enough, you will be able to do it by heart. But I'm not asking you to memorize. So this, if I am to ask you any questions regarding such a commitment scheme or any other commitment scheme, I will give it to you. But I will assume that you literally understand every step in the commitment scheme. So how can this, like, what would be the, this side, how would he verify that the opening corresponding to the original commitment? How can this side verify that the opening corresponds to the original commitment? Just calculate G to the power X, H to the power R, and compare it to the commitment C. Because I'm receiving X and R, so I receive X and R and I have G and H here public, so I raise G to the power X, H to the power R, multiply them together, and verify that whatever I'm getting is equal to the original commitment I received. Then what sort of questions I can ask about commitment schemes? I only have 2 questions.
Zero knowledge?
This has nothing to do with zero knowledge. Commitment schemes, which properties I'm concerned with when I talk about commitment schemes? Hiding and binding. Okay, so if I'm trying to protect this side, which property protects this side?
Hiding.
Hiding, right? So hiding means what?
Adversary receiver won't be able to know anything about C, like X and R.
About X, right? So I'm protecting X in here, right? I'm protecting the committed value X, right? So after the commit phase, the receiver should not be able to deduce any information about the committed value X. What about protecting this side? Which property protects this side? Binding. The binding means what? So it means that after this guy commits, he should not be able to change his opinion. He should not be able to change his mind. If he commits X, he has to, in the open phase, he has to reveal the same X he committed.
That looks like a receiver, like the sender.
This is the sender. So I'm protecting the receiver.
Protecting it. The sender can do this. Is the sender that will which maybe can break the binding.
that property is broken by the sender.
By the sender.
Okay. So the binding property protects the receiver. And naturally, I only have two players, right? So if you're protecting one side, the other side is the only one who can break. So now I have the hiding property, and I have the binding property. And last time we said I can satisfy these two properties at two levels, right? The extreme level is that I assume that my adversary is having unlimited computational power. And if my property is satisfied with respect to this adversary, then I call it unconditional. So in this case, it just happened that this commitment scheme satisfied the hiding property in information theoretic sense. So we call this unconditional hiding. And it satisfies the binding property against computationally limited adversary. So this is computational binding. And we said the techniques to prove that a property is satisfied in unconditionally is at a very high level. You just prove that this problem does have a unique solution, right? So if the hiding, how can I prove that this commitment scheme is unconditionally hiding? I have to prove to you that no matter how powerful my adversary is, he should not be able to determine X. So in other sense, I have to prove to you that given C, all X's are equiprobable. So do you remember how we did it last time? So to satisfy or to prove the unconditional hiding, we need to prove that for a given C,
we compute X.
all X's are equiprobable. And then it's not like, it doesn't matter how powerful you are, because if you come up with X, there will be another X that is equiprobable as the first one, and it will satisfy the same commitment C.
We G to X, H to R equals G to X bar.
Yeah, so you can just prove, we prove that given C, all X's are equiprobable. How did we do this? We just said that for a given X and R, we can have X not equal to X bar not equal to X, such that G to the power X, H to the power R equals G to the power X dash H to the power R dash. So how can I have such pairs?
X minus X bar to X bar.
So I know that H is G to the power A. So this equation implies that X plus AR is equal to X dash plus AR dash, which means that give me any X, I can just pick any X dash, and then I have one more degree of freedom here by deciding the value of R dash to satisfy this equation.
Is it X dash equal to X or not equal to X?
Not equal to. Right? So the idea here again is that give me any X, I'm going to pick any other X dash not equal to X, and I still can find this X dash because I have one more degree of freedom here. I have R dash. So I'm just going to pick R dash equal to X minus X dash plus AR, everything times R dash inverse modulo Q minus 1.
That's why it's counterintuitive, because the fact that we can find another tuple is telling us that you cannot hide. You can still open with another value towards the sender can trick the receiver. This is my intuition, like when I'm looking at this. I see it as breaking the hiding property.
But actually, if I'm going to write the proof here, and then I'm going to answer your question by just pointing to one factor. Okay? So let's prove the computational binding property. So how did we prove the computational binding? I started with the same argument, with the same equation, right?
Yeah.
So to prove that this scheme is computationally binding, I'm going to start with the same exact equation as he was mentioning.
But the
Right? So now I'm going to say that g to the power x
H to R
hr equals g to the power x dash h r dash.
But in this case, we didn't know A.
So now I'm suppose like I'm the person who's breaking this one. So I'm the one who knows x dash and x. Right? So now I can rewrite this equation as g to the power x minus x dash equals h of r dash minus r, right? And now I'm just going to take log to the base g of both sides. So this would imply that x minus x dash is equal to
What is the
r dash minus r log
G to the base h. Sorry, log h to the base h minus
of h.
What P minus 1? What Q?
This could be mod q minus 1. Everything is mod q. But now who is supposed to be doing these operations in here? Who is breaking the binding properties?
The sender
The sender, right? But the sender doesn't know
A.
the discrete log of h to the base g because it's not picked by him, right? So the sender is not the one. So in here it's as if I am challenging the sender with, if the sender is able to do this, then it means that I can just challenge the sender with any h and they should be able to solve the discrete log problem for and find a that would solve this equation, right? So h is not picked by the sender. This is very important in this protocol because if h is picked by this guy, then this guy can always solve this problem. Right? And going back to your question, this is actually almost the proof why we cannot satisfy the two properties unconditionally at the same time. Because in this side, I'm showing that in order to do this, you need to have infinite computational power, which you don't. So if you remember again, the way we proved that any commitment scheme cannot be unconditionally hiding and unconditionally binding at the same time, we use the same argument you provided to me when you were asking your question.
Okay, so the two parts, they have the same solution, the same kind of, but one is a contradiction, saying impossibility to be at the on the left, on the right side, on the left side, it's a solution, so these are in contradiction. There are two solutions from the two, from the unconditional hiding and binding. On the
No,
right side,
I think what's confusing you a bit is who is doing what, right?
one is done by the.
So, unconditional hiding, I am protecting against the guy who already knows the discrete log of h. Right, so I am just showing that this and this side, when I'm talking about computational binding, I am protecting against the guy who does not know the discrete log of h. That's why, like again, like the information at the side who's performing the computation is different from when I'm proving this property and when I'm proving this property. So in here again, the high level idea is that I'm just showing to you that this problem, give me any x, I can always give you another x that's not equal, like I give you another x dash that's not equal to the original x and still would satisfy the commitment. If you have a specific question, ask like. Okay.
But then if like we can find a particular specific x dash, then the center can change the x value to x dash in the real place.
But I just showed you now that this cannot happen, because in order to do this, you need to know the discrete log of. In here, I'm not showing you that this side, who is trying to do this computation, we're assuming that he has infinite computational power, right? But I'm again, like, remember the case that the objective of the person who is trying to solve this problem is to find x and r. So I'm just telling you that you cannot find a unique solution for x, because every time you fix an x and c, there will be another x dash not equal to x that will also satisfy this equation.
But it won't satisfy the equation of log to the base g, right?
So this is an existence. So like in here, I'm just showing that the existence of, okay, there is a difference between trying to prove to you that there exists x and x dash, and between telling you I can find x that does this. In here, what I am showing you that there exists x dash such that for any given x and c, x dash will also satisfy this formula. But if I don't give you x, you cannot find x dash. All right? So in here, x is not like my proof is just existent. I'm just showing you that the existence of x dash. But if I don't give you x, you cannot find x in here. All I'm proving in here is that I'm just telling you that for a given x and c, there exists x dash that satisfies this. But that doesn't tell me how to find x. I didn't find x in here, right? But on that side, I was actually recovering, or that side was trying to recover x, and I showed you that this is not possible, because if I am able to recover x, I will be able to solve the discrete log problem. Right? So this side is an existence. I'm proving, my proof is just about the existence of x dash that is not equal to x and still satisfies the commitment scheme. I'm not telling you how to recover x. Actually, that side doesn't tell you how to recover x, right? It actually proves the opposite. It just shows that there is no unique solution. I cannot recover x.
Actually, both are performed by sender, right? Unconditional tagging.
No, the hiding property here, I am protecting the commitment scheme against the receiver. Right? So it is the receiver that is trying to break this property. And my way of telling you that he cannot break this property is that by definition, breaking this property, it means that he can find x that was committed by the sender. So I proved to you he cannot find x because basically all he knows is c. But for a given c, all x's are possible. And my way of showing to you this is that for any x, I will always find x dash that would satisfy this problem. Then no matter how powerful you are, you always have ambiguity about the value you find as x. Because all x's are valid, because I have another degree of freedom in R.
So here it is receiver and there it is sender. Who is there?
So the hiding property, you are protects the sender against a malicious receiver, and this one, the binding property, protects the receiver So suppose I'm using this scheme in an auction, for example. Then this property will hide the values that the people commits, will hide the value of the bids. And this property will prevent the bidders from changing their minds after they perform the initial bidding. Okay, so now I'm going to move to another parameter, which we call oblivious transfer. For now, just try to understand this primitive, because the first time you get exposed to this, you will always wonder why such a primitive is important. But before the end of the lecture, we will have an application for this primitive. So the idea, again, the high level idea here is that I have two secret values, say M0 and M1. And he is going to pay to know the value of one of these secrets, but he doesn't want to tell me which value he's paying for. So we're going to run the oblivious transfer, 2 out of 1 oblivious transfer between us. At the end of this protocol, he will get the value of the secret he is interested in. I will not know which secret I reveal to him. Okay, let me give a high-level example. Suppose I'm a big spy agent, and I have some secrets about China, some secrets about Russia. Now, so I am the one who's holding some secrets. I have a box labeled Russia secrets, another box labeled China secrets. And he is an agent from US, and he would like to buy the secrets from me. But he doesn't want to tell me if he's going to buy secrets about Russia or secrets about US. He's just going to pay for one secret. So I'm going to interact with him using this oblivious transfer, 1 out of 2 oblivious transfer. At the end of this protocol, he's going to learn the secret either about Russia or about China. He is the one who's going to decide. I am not going to be able to tell which secret did he learn. Because maybe learning which secret he learned, this reveals the information that in some application we don't want it to happen. Because the fact that this guy is asking about Russia might be important, might be a secret that I'm going to sell later on, for example, right? These applications actually have, this is like a very contrived example, but sometimes, especially for pharmaceutical applications, for example, suppose a company is trying to do some queries for a database. It's a pharmaceutical company that is querying some patents, but they have to pay for the patent. But if I know that this company is querying lots of patents about a specific drug, for example, then I can sell this information to the competing companies. But if I am holding all these patents and I know this guy is paying for one, he was going to get one patent, but he's not going to tell me which patent he obtained from me. All I know is that I give him information that is worth one patent. He paid $1 for one patent, he will get one patent, but I cannot tell which patent did he get. All right?
But if he wants to know pattern. He knows which pattern he wants.
Yeah, it's again like I have in my first example, this is a closer one. Like I have a box labeled China secret, another box labeled. See, he knows that the first box corresponds to China's, the second one corresponds to Russia. He has to know. So he will know that this is the encryption value of, or the index I refers to China, index 2 refers to Russia, for example. So he has to know the order. Actually, when we have the protocol, it's the high-level description is probably more complex than the protocol itself. So oblivious transfer, I'm going to give two instantiations for the oblivious transfer. One time using the RSA, and the other time using something like discrete log-based oblivious transfer. So you guys, I guess all of us remember RSA, and just in case, I'm going to remind you very quickly with it. So for the RSA, I have the sender and I have the receiver. So the receiver has a public key. So public key is N and E, where N is P times Q, and actually here the public key is N and E, and the private key is equal to D, or the decryption exponent D, and N is equal to the multiplication of two larger primes, P times Q, and I also have ED is congruent to 1 mod phi N, where phi N is B minus 1 times Q minus 1. And the public key here, everyone knows it, so this is N and E. And to send a message, I send ciphertext C, M to the power E mod N. And to decrypt, I obtain C by raising C, I obtain M by raising C to the power D mod. So now, suppose I have oblivious transfer between Alice and Bob. So Alice is selling secrets. So she has two secret messages. So the input is M0 and M1. So M0 and M1 are two secrets. This is like China, this is Russia secrets. M0 corresponds to secrets about China, M1 corresponds to secrets about Russia, for example. So Alice is going to set up public private key, RSA keys for herself. So the secret key now, secret RSA key, is equal to D. And she's going to make NE public. Public key So the 1 out of 2 oblivious transfer works as follows. So Alice is going to send to Bob R0 and R1. Just two random numbers, R0 and R1. Alice is going to pick two random numbers, R0 and R1, and she's going to send them to Bob. So Bob is the person who's buying one of these two secrets. So Bob has to decide which secret he is buying. So Bob is going to pick sigma. So sigma is either 0 or 1. So if he is interested in M0, he's going to pick sigma equals 0. If he is interested in M1, he's going to pick sigma equals 1. And he's going to pick a random K. So this is, again, if Bob is interested in learning M0, he's going to pick sigma equals 0. If he's interested in learning M1, he's going to pick sigma equals 1. Then he's going to respond to the Alice by sending V equals R sigma plus K to the power E mod N. So R sigma again is either R0 or R1, and he's going to add K to the power E modulo N to it. When Alice receives this, she is going to calculate K0, which is equal to V minus R0 to the power D mod N, and K1 equals V minus R1 to the power D mod N. Then she's going to send back M0 dash, or she's going to send M0 dash is equal to M0 plus K0, and M1 dash equals to M1 plus K1. In here, he's going to recover, Bob is going to recover the message he is interested in by just calculating M sigma dash minus K. And I'll show you why this works. Let's do it by example. Suppose Bob is interested in learning M0. So I'm just going to prove it to you by example. Suppose Bob is interested in learning M0. So in this case, V is equal to what? R0 plus K to the power E mod N, right? Okay, and then K0 will equal to what? So V minus R0, so it's V is R0 plus K to the power E minus R0 and everything to the power D, right? So this term will cancel with this one, and I will get K to the power E to the power D, which gives me what? It's going to give me K. And this is a simple, if you encrypt something and then decrypt it, you obtain K to the power E is encryption, and anything to the power D is decryption. So this is just encryption and then decryption. Okay, and then K1 is going to be V minus R1. So it's going to be R0 plus K to the power E minus R1 to the power D. So it's going to be something completely garbage. It's just going to be something random. Now M0 dash will equal to what? M0 plus K0. So M0 plus K0 is M0 plus K. And M1 dash is going to be M1 plus K1, which is something that is completely garbled. Now I am Bob. I know which value I am interested in. I know that I'm interested in M1. So I'm just going to pick this one. Sorry, I'm interested in this case, I'm interested in learning M0. So I'm just going to to subtract k from this one. So m0 dash minus k will give me m0.
Excuse me. Alice cannot distinguish between K and KY. Is it that right?
For Alice, both of them will just look random, right? Because V minus R0 is what?
R0.
Again, like this one is random, right? K is just random.
I see. So Alice want to know which K is picked by Bob.
But again, like K is just a number between 1 and n minus 1. And this value is just another random number between 1 and n minus 1. So the distribution of this and the distribution of this are indistinct.
We have this example recording us to the model.
Forget about the example. But I just want to make sure that you're really following the steps. Yeah, in here, yeah, if there is a modulus operation, put it here.
There would be K mod n.
Everything here is this one is all my operations here. Like if I'm very precise, I can actually just need to put mod n here and mod n here. Right.
And there is a twist. The KAD is like a K at 1 phi n, which is K at 1 mod n.
Say that again.
K at the E multiplied by D. It's K at the 1 phi n. Mod
So
phi n.
yeah, this is the proof of the RSA decryption, right?
Yes.
So this is k to the power L phi n plus 1, right? For some integer value n. Which and then k to and this is mod n, and k to the power phi n is 1. K to the power phi n modulo n is 1. So this is 1 to the power L, and then this is k. But this is again, this is basic RSA stuff.
So Alice cannot retrieve key from V.
So let's look at this one and just try to argue about its security. So again, the oblivious transfer should specify two things, right? This guy should not pay for one secret and obtain two secrets. And Alice should not tell which secret Bob wants to get. So again, what ensures this property is that for the response she gets from Alice, from Bob, whether this is like some sort of one-time pad encryption. So the value of R sigma actually would, if Alice knew what's inside here, she would be able to tell which message Bob is interested in. But this is equivalent to breaking the one-time pad, because k is random, k to the power e is going to be random also. So this is one-time pad encryption of R sigma. Right? So the proof of that step is relying on the fact that this is like knowing the value of R sigma would be equivalent to breaking the one-time pad, which we know that you cannot break it even if you have unlimited computational power. And again here, this is also like, it's as if I'm encrypting one message with, this is like one-time pad encryption, but in one of them, I am sending the encryption key to the recipient, and the other one I'm not sending the encryption key.
For the third step, Bob
Third step is this one.
yeah.
Okay.
Bob will receive M0 dash and M1 dash.
So they are ordered, right? He knows this is the first one and this is the second one.
Okay, they do it on. So he know after minusing K, he knows what he wants.
He knew from the beginning he is interested in the first one. Right? I can just redo the whole example if I put he's interested in learning M1 and everything would follow. Right? So again, the assumption is he knows that he is interested in this one and they are ordered. Right? It's not like I'm scrambling them as well.
But can he decrypt the M0 also? M1 also?
No, because again, to decrypt M1, he has to know K1.
But he knows it's B minus R1, so he knows the value from the first message R1. Right?
But he doesn't know D. D is the decryption exponent of Alice. So, like K0 actually, K0 is equal to this, but this side doesn't calculate it from this equation. This side knows that K0 is just going to equal to K, and he knows K.
It looks like there is a probability, like 50% chances for Alice to know, because one of the two values is K, but that's probability 50%, because you have just K0, K1.
But again, like K is just a random number between 0 and n minus 1.
Yes, but it's been added with M0 and M1. Alice knows M0 and M1. Alice knows M0 and M1.
Okay.
And she can add with a K.
But she doesn't know K. Right? K is not
She
something.
has 50% probability to know it, because K0, K1, as we see, K0 is equal to K.
But she doesn't know K. K is picked by Bob, and it's secret.
Yes, but Alice computes K0, K1.
Alice calculates
K0, K1. Both.
K0.
She already knows that one of the two values is K.
Okay, let me just follow with you. Okay. K0, K1. She knows that one of them but again, I still don't get it. Like, she doesn't know, Alice doesn't know K, right? So K is just a random number.
She doesn't know.
Yeah.
But she can find out 50% probability that is one of the other. Like, she can, it's just the.
Yeah, but we know without doing anything that.
He's asking one of these two.
Yeah, we know a priori that Bob is going to ask for either M0 or M1.
She has yes, so we have two options, two possibilities. There's 50%
Okay.
to one or the other.
Okay.
Okay, maybe the probability is there from the beginning.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing. Like, after you execute the protocol, Alice did not enhance her knowledge as to which value Bob is interested in.
I just realized that in the beginning, without doing anything, there is
Yeah.
only two possibilities,
Yeah.
China or Russia. So
Yeah.
it's 50% that
Yeah.
you can take a
So
guess.
we know a priori that she's going to.
There is no gain from this.
Yeah.
Always K0 equal to K.
If Bob wants to get M0, it will be the case, right? But I can run, this is just an example, right? So here I can run this example by just saying, so now the second case, this is case 1, right? You can say I have two cases. Bob is interested in learning M0, and I wrote here that I prove that he is going to learn M0. Second case is that Bob is interested in learning M1, and I have to modify everything to reflect this.
And again, K1.
In this case, K1 will equal to K, and K0 will be something else. It will be R.
R0 minus R1.
Yeah, but it's going to be something random anyway. So you know I think if you understand the word oblivious, you need to. So you know what oblivious means, right? Because if you don't know the meaning of the word, the protocol doesn't make that much sense to you. So when you go home, just dig out the meaning of oblivious from the dictionary. Because I think without knowing the meaning of the term, you will not really associate with this protocol.
Can we say that it's like blind?
Actually, I know the meaning, but I don't have the exact words for it. But when someone is completely oblivious about something, it means that he's completely unaware or is completely. Can someone like just do right now or only dictionary and see what is the?
Not aware of or not concerned about what is happening.
So it's as if you are completely oblivious of what's happening around you when you are checking your mobile and walking on the street, for example. So Alice is completely oblivious as to which value was picked by Bob. So any questions about this protocol? So the protocol I described is called, it's a 1 out of 2 oblivious transfers. There are 1 out of m oblivious transfers. But the other protocol, the other example I'm going to show is one more example for 1 out of 2 oblivious transfers. So the first one was based on RSA. This one is Belay-Mikali 1 out of 2 oblivious transfer. So now I have still Alice and Bob playing the same roles as before. Alice picks a random number C. And ZQ, just the numbers between 1 and Q minus 1. And then she sends it to Bob. Again, the setup here, Alice has 2 secret messages. I'm going to use the same notation as in the slides. I put x0 and x1, but this is the same as m0 and m1 in the first protocol. If you like to write it m0 and m1 and keep the notation consistent with the RSA one, you can do that. So Bob here picks ZB, so he decides which bit he's interested in, right? So if he is interested in getting x0, he picks b equals 0. If he's interested in getting x1, he picks b equals 1. And then he calculates ZB equal to g to the power k. G is public parameter. Or actually Q, G and Q. Q is just a prime and G is generator of this group. Like G to the power 1, G to the power 2, up to G to the power Q minus 1 will give us all the elements in Z. And then Z1 minus B equals C divide G to the power K. And then he's going to send Z0 and Z1 to Alice. Alice is going to send him two ciphertexts, C0 and C1. So C0 is equal to G to the power R0. It's two components, G to the power R0, and the other component is H is just a hash function. It does, again, at our level, we don't really need H, but just keep it to, because we're referring to a protocol by name, so we have to stick to how the protocol was initially described. This is X0, and C1 is equal to G to the power R1, H of Z1 to the power R1, so let me look at these two components. The first one we can call it V1, and the second one we can call it V2. Right? The first component of the ciphertext I'm going to call it V1, and the second component of the ciphertext I'm going to call it V2. And then this side is going to recover the information he's interested in by computing. So he's recovering CB, or he's actually going to decrypt CB by calculating H to the power V1 to the power K, XOR it with V2. So he's actually going to recover CB, decrypt CB by evaluating this. So let's look quickly on why does it work, right? Just one example for why it works. Suppose Bob was interested to recover X0. So he's going to pick B equals 0. So Z0 is going to be G to the power K, right? And he knows K, right? So he picks B and K, right? So K is known by this sign. So Bob now he is interested to recover X0. So he picks B equal to 0 and calculates Z0 equal to G to the power K. So Bob knows G to the power K. So Z0 is equal to what?
C over G to
Z0 is G to the power K, right?
yeah.
So this value is equal to what?
G to K R0.
R0, right?
Yeah.
Which is the same as G to the power R0 to the power K, right?
Yeah.
So if I know K, and I see this value, then I can raise this value to the power K, hash it, add it to this, recover
I see.
X0. Alright? Same thing if I have picked B equal to 1, then Z1 will equal to G to the power K, and I will be able to raise this value to the power k, hash it, add it to that side, cancel the effect of the hash, recover x1.
So it was picking the R0, R1.
R0 and R1 are just picked by Alice. So here, all of this is performed by Alice, right? I just don't have enough space here, so I should have written this on this side. So Alice picks R0 and R1, and she forms C0 and C1 and sends them to Bob.
So Bob won't be able to recover both x0, x1 because he doesn't know R1 or R0.
Bob doesn't know R0, he doesn't know R1.
That's why he cannot recover both x0 and x1.
Yeah.
I see.
But let's look at this one and to try to think of some meaningful questions. Why does Alice send C to Bob? Why does Alice need to send C to Bob? Like, I mean, why Bob just doesn't send bits ZB and Z1 minus B the way he likes and send them to Alice? Why does Alice
To not make Bob retrieve both x0, x1
have?
because Alice picks R0 and R1. And
Okay.
in order to Bob to retrieve both secrets, he will need to recalculate C over G to K to the power R1, which he doesn't have. Sorry,
No, he has it. He knows C, he knows G to the power K.
but he doesn't know C to the power R1.
Your answer is around
When,
the right.
when Bob did the encryption, it works for C0 because he knows G0. When he wants to do the same
So it's
decryption-
actually, the whole idea is that I wanted Bob to be able to know the discrete log of one of the two values, not Bob's.
Yes.
Because if Bob knows the discrete log for both ZB and Z1 minus B, he will be able to retrieve both of them. So I wanted to give him only one degree of freedom. I don't want Bob to be able to pick this value such that he knows this discrete log and this value and he knows this discrete log. Suppose Bob doesn't have this restriction. Then Bob can pick ZB as G to the power KB, and then this is like for just J to the power K1, and then this as J to the power K2, right? If he knows K1 and K2,
He can do
then he can recover both values, right? But now I restricted him, because actually what I did not write is that when Alice receives this, Alice has to multiply Z0 times Z1 and verifies that they are equal to, the multiplication is equal to C. That's why I should have written that step. So in here, Alice should verify that Z0 times Z1 equals to C. Because I wanted to make sure that Bob doesn't have the freedom to pick Z1 such that he knows the discrete log of Z1 and Z2, and he also knows the discrete log of Z2. He only needs to be able to have one degree of freedom by knowing the discrete log of either Z1 or the discrete log of Z0. If he has the freedom to pick both of them such that ZB is G to the power K and Z1 minus B is G to the power K dash, and he knows K and K dash, then he can actually decrypt both messages. Because he's just going to raise this one to the power K and raise this one to the power K dash, and he's going to do the same. But I deprived him from this because I only give him 1 degree of freedom. He only knows the discrete log of either this or this. He pays for 1 secret, he should decrypt only 1 secret.
But I sent both of them C0 and C1. So how can switch Bob to choose just one?
Again, Alice, suppose Bob like start a priori. Suppose Bob decided that it's going to be bet B equal to 0. Right? So how would he recover x1? In order for him to recover x1, he has to be able to cancel that term, right? So in order for him to cancel that term, he has to be able to calculate z1 to the power r1, but he doesn't know r1. So I will have access to the ciphertext, but I will not be able to decrypt it. So again, the whole idea of these 2 protocols I gave to you is that I send you the ciphertext of both components, but you are only able to decrypt one of them because the way the keys are formatted that you only have the key that corresponds to one of these 2 ciphertexts. Whether it was on the RSA or it was this protocol, in both cases it was the same idea. A very closely related concept to oblivious transfer is what we call private information retrieval. This is actually the example I gave of pharmaceutical companies. It relates more to the notion of private information retrieval. Suppose I have a patent server, and this patent server is, we will query it, but I don't want the patent server to know which query the person who is inquiring is interested in. With very simple logic, you can tell that there is no way to do it unless I actually have to have the patent server send the whole database to the person who is doing the query. Again, suppose I have 10 elements, I have 10 pieces of information, and you are asking about one of them. In theory, there is no way for me, or you, or anyone to design a protocol that would allow me to gain no information about which entry you are interested in, except if this protocol is asking the server to access all the entries and send all the entries. Because if this protocol will only make the server access the entries that you are interested in, I am the server, in this case I am the malicious entry, and I can tell which entry you are interested in. Then any protocol that performs this private information retrieval will be completely inefficient, because I have to have the server access all the database, otherwise he will be able to tell which, if the server is not accessing a specific entity, he will know that you are not asking about it. So in order to make the server completely oblivious about which entry you are interested in, this protocol will have to be very inefficient, because it will have to make the server access all the entries. Because if the server is, if you design a protocol and the protocol will only make the server access like specific set of entries, then the server will gain information. He will know that you have no, you will not asking about the other entries that the server did not access. Is that clear what I'm saying? This has nothing to do with crypto. I'm just talking about the whole idea for the people who work on something relates to this, but it's not exactly the same. If you are in the data mining community, you would hear more about it, which is private information retrieval. So private information retrieval, suppose I have a database that has 1 million entities, and there is one client inquiring about one entity, but he doesn't want to tell you which entity he is inquiring about. Now I have fundamental limitation. no matter how clever I am, I cannot design a protocol that achieves the required security unless I make the server access all the entries. Because if the server accesses only a subset of the entries, the server will know that the information you are inquiring about cannot be in the other entity that you did not access. So people are actually looking for ways to make this more efficient by actually distributing the database among multiple servers, and they assume that these servers do not collude with each other. And then they can come up with more efficient solution for such a thing. Just before I finish this part, any one of you guys have any questions on this? Checking the correctness of this type of things is literally trivial, because you just need to go for case 1 and case 2. Case 1, when this guy is interested to retrieve the first message, and you just run the protocol with the parameter that will correspond to b equals 0, and you prove that he is able to recover x0. Case 2, when he is interested in recovering M1. The other tricky questions, like one example, I actually don't have that many tricky questions in here, but one example is, why do we have to pick C? What will happen if this guy is the one that picks C? So I can give you a protocol like something similar to this, but the way I describe it, for example, I make this guy pick C. And then I ask you what's wrong with this protocol, or analyze the security of this protocol. If this guy picks C, then the way it works is that he can pick Z0 equal to G to the power K1, he knows K1, and he can pick Z1 equal to G to the power K2, and then he can calculate C as Z0 times Z1, and then in here, when he receives the first message, he's just going to raise this value to the power, did I write K0 or K1? K1. And then he's going to calculate its hash value, add it to this, he's going to get x0. And then he's going to take this one, raise it to the power K2, hash it, add it to this, recover x1.
Can you repeat the last one? About you pick the C, it's about pick the C.
If Bob picks C, the whole idea is that he will be able to pick Z0 and Z1 such that he knows K1 and K2, right?
Yeah.
He will pick K1 and K2, right?
Yeah.
And then calculates Z0 as this and calculates Z1 as this.
Okay.
So he picks K1 and K2. He knows K1 and K2, right?
Fine.
Then he's just going to take this value, raise it to the power K1. So if he takes this, raise it to the power K1, he will get Z0 to the power R0. Same as here, right?
Okay.
And if I take this value, raise it to the power K2, this will give me Z1 to the power R1. Again, as I mentioned, at our level, the existence of H is not doing us any help. Usually, actually, whoever designed that protocol, most likely he used H to be able to prove some properties about the protocol. But in our, whatever I mentioned, you can just delete H and everything I mentioned would be the same.
Is there any possibility in this scenario that Alice becomes the attacker, or she has no chance to attack this?
Okay, if Alice is the attacker, then what property would we break?
Alice will find out exactly what Bob wants.
Yeah. So this is the attack model, right? So, but in this case, our way of proving that Alice cannot do this, because these two, Z0 and Z1, would be indistinguishable, like from Alice's perspective. Alice will not be able to tell whether. So I have, okay, so now I'm going to send Z0 and Z1, right? So if Bob was interested to learn X0, then the tuple Z0, Z1 would look like what? So if Bob, B equals 0, right? So if B equals 0, the tuple Z0, Z1 would be in what form? GK.
C over GK.
Okay. And if B is equal to 1, then I will have.
C over GK.
No, it's the other way around, right? If B is equal to 1, then I will have C over GK, and this is GK, right?
Yeah.
You can actually find some theoretical proof that these two tuples are indistinguishable, like they have the same distribution. So if I generated lots of these pairs, and I also generated lots of these pairs, and I give you this pile and this pile, I tell you which is which, you should not be able to tell. So if Alice is able to tell which message Bob was interested in, it means that Alice can actually tell the difference between these two. But we have other proof that I didn't mention that would show us that you can actually not distinguish. If you are a computationally bound adversary, you cannot distinguish between these two.
At least the mod.
Yeah, in this case, everything is mod Q. Yeah. So suppose Alice not Alice. Suppose Bob is able to solve the discrete log problem for C. Suppose Bob is able to find g to the power x, where g to the power. Suppose Bob is able to find x such that C is equal to g to the power x.
You will attack both secrets.
So in this case, actually, Bob can run the same attack, right? Because if he's able to solve the discrete log here, it means that K1, he knows it, it's equal to K, and K2 is just going to be X minus K. Right? So in here, again, I'm assuming that Bob cannot solve the discrete log problem. This scheme is secure if I assume some limitations on the computational capabilities of Bob. Because if Bob is able to solve the discrete log problem, then it doesn't matter if you send him C. He still can actually find X such that if this is g to the power x, and if Bob is able to find x, then Bob can determine K1 and K2 that will allow him to recover x0 and x1 simultaneously.
So the
again, the whole idea of oblivious transfer, or 1 out of 2 oblivious transfer, is that you have 2 parties. One of them is having 2 secrets. One of them is interested in learning one of them. After you execute the protocol, the party who is interested in the secret will get it. The other party will not tell which secret did he reveal to the other one. Okay, so we can have a break for like 10 minutes and then we'll continue.